5:16-ish. So I would like to call the January 15th meeting of the Oregon Public Library Board to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Stata.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Reese.
She's here.
Hessian.
Here.
And Bonsonfield.
Here?
And then Gotlin and Bergstrom. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Any community input this evening?
Yes,
Please.
I would like to invite everybody to the pancake breakfast at the senior center on January 26th from 7:30 to 11:30. $10 for adults, $4 for kids. Thank you.
I'm bringing my grandkids.
Excellent. I will see you at the door.
Wonderful, thank
Awesome
you.
sauce.
Thank you.
Try to be there depending on the hockey tournament. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. So amend or approve the minutes from our December meetings.
Do you need to do number 3, adopt?
Oh, sorry, can we adopt or amend the agenda, please? Thank you, Caroline. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Sorry, I skipped ahead.
Now we're gonna go up to
Now
the
we're
pancake
gonna go
breakfast.
To the pancake breakfast. And then we will go to amending or approving our minutes from our December meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, so moved.
Thank you, Jen.
Second.
Thank you, Carly. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Moving on to review and payment of available bills and accepting the financial reports.
So you have bills in two different bunches. One is the bills that will go on the 2024 budget, and one is the set that will go on the 2025 budget. They're just separated for us to track, but they're all bills that we're asking to approve tonight. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Is there a motion to review and pay bills and accept the financial reports?
Question.
Question, John.
Oh, we have to have the motion and the second before, okay. So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sure.
Thank you, Carly.
Discussion?
Questions?
Yes. The operating budget, or the, oh golly, hang on. The, one moment please, I'm not well prepared as I wanted to be. The expense list goes through January 15th. The financials and operating fund go through only November 30th.
Yes, so that's a usual setup. So the village does not, because of the village process, they don't pay bills until after our board meets. And so then they, at the end of the month, they give us the list of all bills they've paid the previous month. And so there's always that delay every single time, and that also happens at the village board level. So basically, we're approving it, and then there's a delay before it shows up on the expenditure report.
Okay.
So what you see on the expenditure report reflects all bills paid through last month's meeting,
Okay.
and then it'll be updated to reflect these new bills for next month.
So we'll see the year-end operating budget, fund
In February.
in February.
Correct.
Okay. I had never put that together
Yeah. Yeah.
until just now.
Yeah, I wish we had it a little more promptly, but there's just so many moving pieces that kind of go into that. So there's just a little delay that way. It's always we always see the bills we approve this month
Yes.
will always be on the expense report that we get the following month.
Thank you for the explanation. I now understand. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, Carly?
I just am looking at the vendor, let's see, there are several things in here that are dues and subscriptions, and I'm assuming that they're annual. Some of them are pretty substantial. I just want to clarify that my assumption is correct.
Sure. Which do you have a particular one?
In particular, the Tech ILS membership is pretty substantial.
Yeah, that is a
And then-
one-time annual fee to the South Central Library System for a variety of services that they support. Those are all budgeted, and we're part of our budget request. It includes everything from our technical support, our computer support, to our acquisition software to enter things, our participation in the shared library catalog. So there's a whole variety of fees different services through the South Central Library System that supports that we get from them.
Thank you for that explanation, I appreciate it.
Was there another one, Carolyn, that you
No,
wanted
no,
to-
I was just looking, before and thinking, I'm sure these are annual, I just wanna clarify, so
Correct.
people know they're annual, because they're substantial.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor of payment of bills and accepting the financial reports?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Moving right along to informational items. 6A is the 2024 Build Wisconsin Award to Tri-North Builders.
So just want to recognize Tri-North Builders tonight. They are receiving, I guess, I thought it was tonight, but looks like it may be tomorrow night, the 2024 Build Wisconsin Award for their work on our project. So that's a very nice honor for them. And so just want to publicly congratulate them and thank them for their work on our project and wish them well as they accept that award.
I think it's a pretty nice honor for this library as well.
It sure is.
Yeah, it is. Moving on to quarterly management team and strategic plan report.
And so this is the last quarterly, apparently I'm having trouble driving Adobe today, I apologize. We have our last quarterly report from our managers, kind of summarizing all the amazing activities that they and each of their teams were working on from October through December in 2024. So again, it's kind of, there's a little delay, so they report in January and October through December. We do it quarterly. So every 3 months they do a report and they need a little time to summarize those activities after they're completed. So again, you can kind of take a look at each team member. I encourage you to read through this if you haven't already. They're just doing so many wonderful things for the community, and we just have such talented people, each with their own variety of skills and interests, and we're just really lucky to have each of them.
I want to thank everyone because I had to go back up to the top and remind myself that this was quarterly because of the sheer volume of activities reported on here. So I want to give my heartfelt thanks to everyone for putting on such wonderful programs and at the volume that you're doing.
Yeah, the 3,500 people attended in-person programs hosted at the library in 3 months.
Yeah.
Plus another 1,000 times people participated in self-directed activities. That's crazy, amazing, but thank you everybody. Like, that's awesome.
In
How's
a
that?
quarter.
And how does that saying go? If you build it, they will come,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There
That's
it is.
amazing.
Yeah, so thank you to everyone. Anyone else have anything they wanted to highlight there?
I was really excited about the balloon drop that happened on New Year's Eve and had a lot of fun, so thanks for that too.
All right.
I would just want to say thank you for the grand total of all the new items processed is unbelievable for each month, and then the total for the year, just crazy, but awesome, and awesome, I should say.
Okay, moving on to library director's report.
So to build on what Jenny said, you do have a picture of the balloon drop in your packet. There was a nice video that one of our team members did on Facebook of the balloons dropping from the center of the floor down from the second floor down to the first floor. It was quite the video to watch. So if you haven't seen that, let me know and I can send it your way. But that was the end of the year celebration that the library participates in with the Oregon Wellness Coalition. And last year, or historically, that event had been hosted in multiple locations, which was good for some reasons, but also was challenging for folks to get from one location to the other. So this year, they tried out hosting just at the library. I'm not sure if they're going to take that approach in the future or not, but we are honored to be a host of that, and they had over 450 guests during the 2 hours of that event at the library. So good community turnout, and really thankful to the Oregon Wellness Coalition, all their volunteers for making a great event for the community. Of note also, in January, we reached our 1-year anniversary in the new library, so it's been a great first year. I just want to thank our staff, our library board, village board, all our donors, and the entire community for being supportive and understanding and excited about the library as we went through our first year. We obviously had to get used to a lot of new workflows and set up a lot of new systems, but everybody's been amazing and really grateful and and positive, so it's been wonderful. Just want to share a couple other things of note. The library was featured in the new county exec, Melissa Eggers, update about some of our sustainable features in the library, so it was exciting to see the county exec come and take note of our library. We also finally got the Creative Space naming opportunities sign up, so the space that was formerly the Maker Space is now called the Creative Space. And there's a dedication plaque for the donor of the sponsor of that space. And then we have a second donor plaque that was installed in one of the window seating areas. We have all the signage for all the naming opportunities up at this time, so that is all complete. We have a handful of warranty items still. We had a big list in November, and Charnors completed quite a few of them along with some of the other subcontractors. But we do have some that will have to wait till spring for a variety of reasons, and then a few more that we're going to be working with them to get completed over the coming month or so. Also happy to report that we finally are on BadgerNet 13 months after we were hoping to be, so that's exciting. We switched over on Monday and everything went smoothly on our second attempt. So that project is now wrapped up. And an added benefit is now that we have a backup system, we can always switch back to the other system, which we need for our phone systems. We have to keep that second system, and the benefit is now we're set up to switch back to that should there be a wider outage in our BadgerNet service, so that's great. We are still trying to get the final pieces of our shelving installed on, and apparently the installer got in a car accident last week when they were scheduled to come, and so now they're supposed to come tomorrow.
We've run out of excuses.
We're having
making stuff up.
We're having some bad luck, but they're supposed to come Friday, and we're hoping that we can wrap up those final pieces that are missing and be done with that. We'll talk a little bit more about the village referendum, but the village board did approve placing a referendum question on the April ballot for the Village of Oregon residents. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the agenda. Two other pieces of note, Martin will be holding some office hours here for our staff to have an opportunity for our staff to connect with him on any questions or concerns or thoughts they have that they wish to share with him. So that's a great opportunity. He does that in each of the village departments on occasion, and it's great opportunity for communication. And then the last thing is the spring election is coming up on April 1st, and there are 3 village trustee seats and the village president seat that are going to be on the ballot, so just want to point that out.
Just want to add that there will be a primary on February 18th for the state school superintendent. It'll be the only thing on the ballot in the village. There are no other primaries, but the Wisconsin Election Commission did approve the ballot yesterday in their meeting, and so there is a primary for that, February 18th, third Tuesday in February.
In your packet, you also do have the feature article by the county exec's office about the library, and then our January events schedule as well. So take a look at that. There's a lot going on.
There are a lot of things going on, thank you. We can move on to monthly statistics.
And I'm just gonna encourage you to take a look at this. We will have, we'll talk more at next month's meeting about the annual statistics to summarize the whole year as we have to do our annual report, and we'll be talking about that more. But just in general, we had a huge increase in things like our door counts. So if you can see from 2024 over 2023, we went from just under 78,000 visitors to, oops, I really can't operate a mouse today, just under 120,000 library visits. So last week we were told somebody that we had hundreds of visitors every day, and that's actually true. And so that's just kind of fun to see the impact that the new space has had, and we hope we'll continue to have on our library visits. Also the meeting room use and study room reservations, which we weren't offering at the old library, and how those have been very popular. So again, we'll have totals for you. Next month it's a little bit more impactful to see the totals for the year than just individual month by month. Again, checkouts at our library is about 25% higher than it was last year, so there's increases in lots of different various services, that is very exciting to see. So we'll talk again more about that next month, but just overall, majority of numbers are increasing overall.
Exponentially.
The one that I find sobering is April of 2020,
Mhm.
when the checkouts were
0.
0.
Yeah, that's hard to look at.
Well, it's an indication of some of the turmoil that we've been through.
Yes. The other good thing is that we now have a pickup window, which would provide more options to continue service should we not be able to open our doors to them.
Has it been made operational?
Yes, so there is a pickup number statistic that is on the bottom of one of these pages.
Okay,
It's on the bottom of the reference questions page. And so we haven't included this because we don't have enough staff to get really busy with it, but it's a great service for those that were doing curbside pickup at the old library. We have a number of folks who prefer curbside pickup. We have some people who, for whatever reason, it's difficult or challenging or not prefer to get out of their vehicle, and so that they can go to the pickup window, push the intercom, it calls our circulation desk staff, then they can answer the call, get the person's items, and take them to the window so somebody doesn't have to get out of their vehicle. And as you can imagine, there's a variety of situations where that is ideal, but again, it's available, but we're not advertising it just because it's very convenient. So,
But even without advertising, you're consistently around 50 a month.
and the people that are using that service very much appreciate it, and it's very important for many of them, so.
Wonderful.
Especially in the winter when, walking on icy sidewalks or
It's
wherever
dangerous for some
is not desirable for a lot of folks, so.
and that's very close to the drop-off, drive-through drop-off.
It's right next to it,
Yeah,
so you
it's a
can go
window.
through and do both at the same time.
Is it staffed all the time, or is there during a buzzer and somebody comes? How does that work?
Basically, our circulation desk is staffed all the time, and so it's available anytime the library is open. It's somebody, the call would go through to our circulation desk, and the nearest available staff person would answer that and check it out.
Okay. Got it.
But there's not someone at the drive.
The window, no, you have to push a button to call.
Yeah, they have to run from the desk to the hold shelf, to the desk, back to the pickup window, and then back to the desk.
They wear their running shoes that day?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, and we have talked about other ways to operate in the future, but for now, it was a new service and we didn't have a lot of time, and so it's working.
Sure.
And so we've been focusing on some other things that we need to get done before we can go back and revisit and tweak it. We were originally thinking about certain people to designate that as their pickup location, so instead of us having to run back and forth, that we just have their things there.
Okay.
But because of volume and other priorities, we haven't reevaluated it, so hoping in the future we can eliminate some of the back and forth. But for now, it's working well, and the numbers are manageable to do it how we've been doing it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other questions or comments on the staggering statistics? All right, moving on to committee reports.
Well, there are none.
And then, any village board announcements, Carly?
Well, I think the big one is that we have decided to put a referendum on the ballot for April, and for lots of various reasons. Also, and I think that that's really the most, the biggest one. There is a report that we heard at the last board meeting around the survey from folks about the downtown development and what suggestions for what that might look like. And, it's not anything that the village is gonna build, it would be things that would be put out for bid, but there are lots of various ideas about how to do that, and those are all both in the plan commission packet and in the village board packet from the last meeting. We meet again on Tuesday because Martin Luther King Day. We will not be meeting on Monday. I think the library's closed as well, right?
Correct, so all village
All
departments
village are closed. Yeah, so the biggest thing happening right now is the referendum, and then also just thinking about future needs of both the senior center and the fire department, and looking at those, but nothing immediate on it.
can't think of any school district announcements besides schools also closed on Monday.
Interesting.
And Tuesday, yes. 4-day weekend. Okay, moving on to discussion and possible action items. We can further discuss the 2025 referendum for village operational
So
funds.
there's no action needed by you as a body, but I just wanted to have it here so you could have any discussion as needed. There's a great press release that the village put out that kind of summarizes what would be included on the referendum and the referendum question, and that's in your packet. It's also on the village website for anybody who's interested in learning more. I did want to point out a couple points of information that have come up in community dialogue over the last week or so. The first is that there's been a misunderstanding by at least some folks that are under the impression that the whole referendum is for the library, and that is not correct. And so I want to point out to you the section of this that does talk about the different staff positions for the different departments that are being included. So the library portion of the staff request is just for about the equivalent of about 2 FTE, so that'd be about the equivalent of 2 full-time positions. So as you can see, there's a number of other village staffing needs that are included, and so the library makes up a small portion of that. We do make up a portion of that, but there are a number of other staffing needs that are also part of that. Also that this is for operational costs only, so it has nothing to do with the cost to construct the library or any other village facility, and that's another point of confusion that we've heard. And then finally, a question has come up about volunteerism at the library and wanting to ensure that we're using volunteerism here and could, whether or not volunteerism could replace the need for additional staff. And I just want to recognize we have an incredible volunteer team. We have volunteers 6 days a week here at the library, much like the senior center, having an amazing volunteer team, and they're very important. There's some jobs that at many libraries staff do that we have our volunteers do, and honestly we couldn't get done in a day if we didn't have volunteers helping with those jobs. So they're very critical, very capable, and many of them they're all very dedicated, and many of them have been helping us for a number of years. So we're really grateful for them. A lot of people think about some of their jobs very simply as, oh, you're just putting a book on a shelf, or you're just checking an item. And while some of our volunteers are very capable and could do portions of that job, we really, at this point, do need a position for a variety of reasons, including the level of training that our work requires, the complexity of library systems, the very workflow from day to day that you come in and the jobs are very different. Even some of our 10-hour-week positions, because of all the different changes and the complexity of the work, it's hard to make sure you're current and doing everything correctly. The work also has lots of implications for patrons in terms of, we charge if things are damaged or things aren't taken up an account. So there's a lot of accuracy and confidentiality that also is very important to the work that is done. And then also there's, we need consistency in scheduling and enough availability to really mandate, needing at least a 10-hour, I think our minimum for our positions is really 10 hours a week. And there are some positions that 10 hours a week is enough for, and there's other positions where we really need somebody to be here more hours depending on the responsibilities. So we will continue to grow and invest in our volunteer program, but that is not the answer for our current needs. We need to have enough staff to support the growth of that program moving forward. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know, but I just wanted to share that information with you since other community members have been asking and talking about that. I wanted you to feel prepared if that should come up as a question.
I'd also like to put that library staff are highly educated. It's not a job that you can just go and take. So most of them have master's degrees. Most of them have been doing this for a long time. They've put a lot into education. So we do love volunteers. There's things they can do, but they're highly educated professionals. So saying that someone can just volunteer is I unfortunately took it a little insulting to our wonderful staff, and so I hope they didn't take it insulting, but the people that work with you and all of them know what they're doing and all the dedication that they do for their career and for all the people, but I just want to make sure that the general public knows that being a librarian is a very highly educated position as well. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, as the village board rep on the board, I just want to point out that, as Jennifer said, this is not about capital, this is improvements, this is not about building buildings. This is about being able to maintain the level of services that the village currently enjoys, and not needing to cut them. So that includes the library, the senior center, public safety, so our police department, as well as those folks who work in the village hall. We are a growing community, and granted, we have some needs in terms of affordable housing and other kinds of things, and on the board, we take that very seriously, and we're working on those things the best that we can. And we also are really clear that our departments need more staff, and this is about operating at a level that people who live in the village have come to expect, and people who move here also expect. So we only can raise taxes based on new construction. And while there is a lot of that happening, it's not enough to maintain the services that we need. This is also not about drilling wells. I mean, that's capital, and it's over there in the utilities bills. So it is about the staff who monitors those wells, but it's not about drilling wells, which we have to do too. If anybody would like to have these more extended talking points, I'm happy to send you a copy.
And the village is supposed to be putting out maybe like a fact sheet. I understand that we'll make available to you as soon as it becomes available. I know they'll be putting on their website available to the public at the same, shortly around the same time. So
And there are also going to be some public meetings about the referendum and what it will be covering, and explanations and things like that. I invite anybody who has questions to contact me, contact somebody else on the board, come to a board meeting.
Thanks, Lily.
Thank you for that
Thank you, Jenny.
explanation.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'd also like to add too that yes, we are in a beautiful brand new building, but without our staff, we wouldn't have all these activities to bring in these 120,000 visitors this year. So it really is about our amazing staff and making sure that they get the resources that they need to continue to provide what actually goes on in this beautiful building.
we certainly respect, however, how each individual community member votes and indicates what is important to them and what they want the outcome to be. But we want to make sure they have the correct information to make that decision when they go to the polls and make that decision for themselves.
If you recall, prior to the approval of the construction of this building, there was a long discussion about what would it take to staff and maintain a building of this size with the activity level that would ensue. And we sort of tried to guess. But then looking back after having been here for a year, I think, Jennifer, in your estimation, especially with the new youth services staff member, how do you feel like we're doing? I mean, are we okay staff-wise?
We're hurting. I mean, we need more staff. We have not put it forth the request on the referendum if I didn't genuinely feel that that was a true need.
Sure.
So right now, without our LTE, we can't staff all the desks. You know, there's times where desks are not available when people call in sick. It's musical chairs, and then, you know, we have to see who can cover what, and then do you get to take a lunch break? I have an employee who was scheduled at the desk for 10 hours tomorrow, or on Friday, and was working 6 days this week.
Oh my.
Because she didn't see any other options for how to cover what was needed. And, you know, certainly we all go the extra mile to make that happen, but that shouldn't be the expectation. That should be the backup plan in case of a snowstorm, or, something should be an exception, not the rule. So I think we seem like it's easy because everybody goes the extra mile and really cares about making it work, but there's some times where providing public service is really a challenge. Or we have to decide, does this person need to stay 12 hours a day, or do we close to the public? And we choose not to close to the public, but is that sustainable? Is that how you want to treat your employees? I don't think so in the long term.
Right,
So we really, you know, like right now, we have the youth services department, you know, we have 3 employees that are year-round, and we have 4 Saturdays a month. So, you know, right now, we have to fill the other 4th and 5th Saturdays somewhere else, you know, and we have to do that in every department. So if we don't have enough to cover the open hours without taking away from somebody else who has other responsibilities that, so it's challenging. We're making it work, but it's not ideal, and it's, people are hurting to get done what they should to the level that they really want to be able to do it. So we definitely need the staff that we're asking for as part of this. If this gets approved, we'll
Yes.
be comfortable, and I think we can make it work moving forward. I would be giving a very different response if we had the staff that was being requested as part of it.
so if that passes and we are approved for those staffing positions, then I heard you say it would be, at that point, comfortable.
Compared to now, yes, I might give you a very different.
Not fluffy,
There's just-
workable.
There's not, like, right now, we just don't have any excess. There's not extra.
Nothing you can trim, you gotta go with your core.
If somebody is gone, then their supervisor has to work extra nights to cover it, you know, like, and that's okay, that a lot of people do that, but at some point, we can only stretch in so many
I'm gonna
directions.
say that's not okay. I mean, it's okay for now, because that's what you have
That's what
to
we're
do,
doing, yes.
but that's not okay.
Yeah, I think the hard part is like, you know, they can stay late, but if they also need to be here at 7 o'clock in the morning for something, and then suddenly you're here at 7 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night, you know, it's just, there's only so many permutations that the
Right.
number of people we have can fill the spots that we need to have
Right.
to keep our current level of service without cutting hours or cutting. And it's hard because if we were to cut hours, it doesn't necessarily mean we'd have less busyness.
Right.
So if we cut
Mhm.
4 hours or whatever, we might still be just as busy, but then we have to check in less open hours, or we might be busier because more people are coming in because we weren't open as late. So it's really hard to predict the ramifications of any cuts to service.
Right,
And then if we cut things like programs or whatever, if we make severe cuts, then people might choose to go to other libraries, which is their choice, but there's also funding that goes along with the use that we have, so then you can kind of start a cycle of, well, if they go somewhere else, then their money goes somewhere else, that makes it even harder to cover what we have. So it's complicated, so I'm not trying to be pushy or whatever, but it's really difficult.
I think that one of the things that your explanation points out is that this is the situation that all the departments in the village are facing, hence the need for this referendum, because we're looking at a police department that has been operating at 20% below where it should be. And so the same there, your police officers are having to work extended hours. There's a lot of overtime in that department. The same thing goes for the people who are monitoring our water and sewer system. It's across the board, and it's not sustainable. People can't work at that level for, you know, long periods of time without having health ramifications, personal relationship ramifications. It's just not sustainable. And
Right.
services suffer because people are tired and all kinds of other things. So there was a lot of thought that went into number one, every department thinking about, okay, what do we absolutely need?
minimum standards.
Right. And so, you know, the examples that Jennifer just gave, you can, if you talk to Chief Peckinkoff, she would tell you a similar story. When you talk to the fire chief, he tells you a similar story. It is the way it is in our village right now, and so hence a referendum.
And ours is exasperated a little bit differently too, because we have that complicating factor of moving into a new library that's been popular and well received, and so when the demand for use goes up, 25% increase in things checked out, well, that means 25% more books to put on the shelf, 25% more books to check in, 25% more books to send to other libraries. So there's all these extra steps. It's not just one book being checked out. It's like all these series of steps that go into that. It may be 25% more times that we help a patron place a hold. So there's all these little steps that take staff time to provide that increased service. And we can't discriminate. We can't, you know, just say we're not gonna help you, you do these certain things. So it's just really complicated with the increase in use that we've seen.
Well, for everyone's sake, I hope the referendum passes. How can we continue to support that piece of legislation coming through? What can we do to ensure that it gets passed, Carlene?
Well, there is in process an education plan for, which I'm sure that we'll hear more about on Tuesday at the board meeting. So I think that that's probably the first place to maybe tune into that. Social media, also fact sheets on the village website. There'll be information that's sent to folks. And then educating yourself about it and talking to people. I mean, just putting it out there. When we want something to pass, we spread the word about what we want to have pass. And so I think that that's also a way to do it.
Would even a yard sign be appropriate?
I am not allowed to campaign overtly on this. I can tell you why we are doing it.
Okay,
And if you and I want to have a conversation privately about what you'd like to do, I can point you in the right direction.
okay, all right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any more questions or comments?
Thank you for your time.
Moving on to the amendments for our outreach policy.
So Kara put together a nice updated outreach policy with Kelly's input. They're the two who do the most outreach to the community, and that can involve residents of all ages. So there's just kind of some language refinements, nothing substantive, but just clarifying how some details work, and then also just expanding the definition of locations where we might do outreach. We really want to meet people where they are, so outreach could be at the food pantry, it might be at the business expo for the chamber, and just kind of expanding that definition of what outreach is kind of more officially. Are there any questions about it? It's mostly minor tweaks, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the amendments of the outreach policy as presented. Thank you, John. Is there a second? Carlene? Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thanks everybody. We have a new outreach policy. Now moving on to the youth services library assistant position.
So just a point, I want to make sure everybody saw the amended memo that was in your packet. And the original request was going to be to approve the youth services limited term employment position that we had was expired at the end of the year because we only have funding in the operating budget for 16 weeks, so it's typically May to the end of summer is what it was this first year. And then this first year in '24, we were able to extend that till the end of the year because our numbers were up so high, we really needed the help. And then also we had some funding that, because of an employee election for health insurance, we had some funding that was available and that we could put towards that purpose. So that's how we funded it in 2024, and that's why that money isn't available to continue for the whole year in 25. As part of the 25 budget, the village board direction was that no new positions should be requested, with the exception of a specific position or two that they had identified as their priorities for the year. Otherwise, we would have very likely, I would have recommended to you that you include that request to make it year-round. So very quickly, we've realized that that's difficult to operate without, especially when we have anybody on vacation. And so we had a need already this week where I really would like this person to sub on Fridays so that we don't have other challenges. And so that was going to be my initial request, to allow that person to sub anytime that position was not actively working the time that was provided by the budget. So, before the May resume date and after the August end date, that they would be able to sub and fill in when other people in that department were on vacation so that we can kind of staff the desk. Since I sent out the packet on Friday, we have a generous, really amazing community member, to say the least, that has offered to donate the additional costs to fund that position for 2025. They're aware of the referendum and know how important the position is to us to, operate and serve the community the way that we want to serve it. And so they've offered to donate that additional amount. And are in the process of sending us a donation to cover those costs. And so that changes the recommended motion a little bit. I talked to Martin at the village, and in general, historically, we don't like to use donations for operational costs, but because it's a high priority to get this into our budget, I talked to him and we talked about how we can, try to work it in different outcomes, and the donor's aware of different outcomes this may have depending on what happens with the referendum. And so it will be my goal to try to figure out how we can eventually get this position into the budget sooner rather than later would be my goal, but we'll be as creative as we can be to get it to be as much of the year as we can moving forward. So I guess I have a couple part recommendation, just because I want to make sure we're being responsible. So the first would be to change the 2025 timeframe for the position from summer only to instead cover the remainder of 2025, contingent upon receipt of that donation check and that it's enough to cover the costs as we just discussed, and I'm sure it will be. And then also effective whenever we receive it. So basically we would not resume the position until we get the check and are able to confirm it's what we were expecting and can meet those needs. The second part is that we designate that employee is able to sub anytime their LTE position is not in effect. So in 2026, if it's only able to be in the budget for summer only, we would like that employee to be able to fill in if the supervisor for that department is on vacation, if they can help us cover desk hours, that would be a huge relief. And then the third part is just to thank the donor for their amazing generosity, because it's a huge deal. You wouldn't think the impact that 20 hours a week has on our staffing, their operations is huge. And it trickles down to all of our departments, it trickles down to our patrons, it trickles down beyond. So it's just really amazing. So we just really want to thank that individual for their amazing leadership and vision and generosity. And then I just want to point out that, again, this would be a 2025 only solution. So this is not committing any funds beyond what we know would be expected to be available in 2026. So depending on the outcome of the referendum, the village budget, all sorts of scenarios, it is possible that we don't have any funding for this position in 2026 beyond the summer that we had budgeted for this year. So I just want to share that is a possible outcome. And so I don't want to seem like we're getting something or committing us to something that we aren't able to do at this time. What questions do you have? I know it's kind of complicated and the plan kind of changed at the last minute, but this is going to be a huge help. Even in any hours we can have to help is very appreciated.
Did I enter this motion into consideration? Or you want to talk about it more before I so move?
It's your choice.
Would you like them as 3 separate? Or maybe 1 and 3 together and then 2 separate?
Sure.
So, okay, sorry, I have to turn and look, just to make sure I get the wording right. So, I would,
Go ahead, talk to me.
you want me, okay. Is there a motion to change the 2025 period of the LTE part-time youth services library assistant position from summer only to cover the remainder of 2025, effective contingent upon the receipt of a donor's donation check to fully cover the additional cost?
Thank them for their generosity.
And thank them for their generosity.
Yes!
Thank you, John. Is there a second?
I'll second
Thank you,
that.
Carly. Any questions, comments?
I mean, I guess I would just like to add my thanks for the generosity and for the vision of coming up with a way to make this happen. That's amazing, and we have wonderful humans in our community that live here and that want to make things successful for the community. I also want to just reiterate that the referendum, the fact that we're having donors support the cost of our employees should show you how important this referendum is. Sorry, that's my.
Thank you. So all in favor?
Yay!
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. And then the final is to designate the LTE part-time youth services position as a substitute during any times when the LTE period for this position is not in effect.
Make the motion, but I do have a question after that.
So we have a motion and we have a second, thank you, John, and question.
Is it specific to Lori or is it specific to the position? Because I just want to
I
make sure I
Made
understand
it
that.
specific to the position.
I think that would make sense, yeah.
Okay.
Because it should we not be able to have that employee in the position, it's likely we would want that for the same.
Okay,
The same
Any individual
contingencies.
that would be in that position until we can fund it for the full year.
that's perfect. I just wanted to
Okay,
double
Yeah,
check that.
that's great, that's my wording, I was trying to figure out how to explain everything.
No, I appreciate the way you've explained it, because it made it simple to follow. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. We are coming up on the closing of our meeting, so our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, February 12th, here at the library at 5:15 PM. Are there any requests for future agenda items? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Thanks, Carly. Second? Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.